Welcome to Parenting Tuesday. And this morning, and we're so excited just to be here on a Parenting Tuesday, because this is where we have that kind of environment where you're safe, you can speak safely about your children, we can parent together, we can advise each other without being judged by anyone. Okay? So today we are going to explore this topic. I think it's a very important topic, you know, in terms of parenting and mentoring. Is there a difference between these two? Because parenting is about, you know, caring and raising a child. Then mentoring, on the other hand, is about supporting and guiding. So are these two interrelated? Are there strategies that can help you as a parent back at home who is watching us or listening to us to do it in a better way, you know, to make these children grow up into responsible adults, into caring adults, you know, in their paths of growing, like in career paths and all that. And in studio with me today, I'm joined by a very interesting and absolutely amazing panel, because both of them are parents and both of them are mentors. What more would you ask for? As in, you're going to get an all-round advice and discussion on this particular topic. So wherever you are, please join me and engage us on all our socials, on SMS 2031-316, and then on WhatsApp 0786-316-316. Okay, so I'll welcome to studio my two guests, Steve and Maureen, and I'll start with you, Steve. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
All right, asante sana. My name is Steve Kiteto. I'm a culture change expert working under Badili Experience, so part of parenting, looking at marriage, family area around mentorship is very key to us as a company. Yeah.
Okay, Maureen.
Okay, my name is Maureen Kemei. I'm a counseling psychologist, and I am a parent and a mentor. I have experience of 19 years old, because I parent 4 children in the ages of 5 to 19 years.
Awesome, amazing. Karibuni sana, and thank you for being with us here this morning. Let me start with Maureen, because she seems to have more experience, 19 years, sio kidogo. So Maureen, what is, you know, is mentorship that necessary? And what does it entail really? Have you found it to be necessary in your 19 years of parenting?
Yeah. Mentorship is very necessary, it's very important. And in simple terms, it's just a transfer of knowledge, it's transfer of experience, by guiding, by supporting. Yeah. Yeah.
So what does it entail, like, for you to be that mentor, a parent and a mentor at the same time?
So to be a parent and a mentor, it means, as I said, you must have experience, you must have some competence, either gained through maybe, as I say, knowledge transfer, so from one source to another. And it entails just taking someone through the stages of life. If it's a child, if it's maybe a youth or someone you're trying to mentor, maybe if it's a career, or if it's something, through the stages that are required for that person to acquire that which they're looking forward to. Yes.
Okay. And Steve, because she's talking about, you know, it's a process of doing 1, 2, 3. What are the guidelines to do these things, to do the mentorship and parenting?
All right. Yeah, I think Maureen has explained it really well. If you allow me, I'll build a bit of context.
Yes.
So that I like, you know, when you do a bit of history, then people get to understand.
Yes.
So the word mentor, you know, came up maybe about 3,000 years ago.
Okay.
And it is this story in Greece where Homer, who's, you know, wrote poems and captures a lot of what life was like in Greece many years ago, captures this story of characters of Odysseus, a king, who went to fight some war 10 years away from his children. And he happened to have entrusted his son with a friend called Mentor.
Okay.
And for the 10 years he was away, he came back and found his son had become very strong in character, very well behaved, very well raised. He had been, you know, lots of good advice coming from his friend Mentor, who was much older. And so that word began being used, you know, you should be like Mentor, who did this to King Odysseus' son.
Right.
And so, just like she has said, a lot of it is, one, being at a step ahead, part of the guidelines, answering your question.
Yes.
A step ahead in terms of knowing this journey, and you're able to advise, you're able to instill wisdom and life skills.
Right.
And so in many ways, you need to be an authority in that area, but also you can be a regulator in terms of, because mentorship can be directly, but you can also do it in a group setting,
Yes.
where if you're not able to do some bit, maybe a skill, then you can entrust your child to another mentor, but you're still sort of like the regulating mentor.
Yes.
The same way we take our children to school, and the teachers ideally should be mentors as well on areas that the parent is not maybe 100% competent. But for me, I think a lot of it should center around character. And just molding the character of a child, which is what the parent, I think, ought to be most competent around, and the whole area of life skills and the wisdom around it,
Yes.
whether it is how to talk, when to talk, why you're saying what you're saying, you know, what to do, when to do it. And so that whole area, you know, as a parent, you need to be ahead and have a lot of engagement. So part of the guidelines is just being able to open channels of communication and conversations with your children, so that you're able to guide them in all these areas, give them advice, and sort of show them the way. As the Bible says, you know, train a child. So the training aspect is really what a mentor ought to be doing, you know, for the long haul.
How does trust come in here? Is it necessary to build trust between you and your mentee, you and your child? Does trust play a role here?
It plays a very big role.
Yes.
Because if the mentee does not trust the mentor, then mentorship will have failed. And maybe just one of the ways that you can build trust is by telling them that the whole process, first of all, is confidential. And there has to be mutual respect between the mentor and the mentee, that I respect your decisions. You can also respect my decisions.
Right.
So trust is a very important thing. I think also another way you can create trust is by letting the whole process also to be mentor-driven, mentee-driven, in a way that, you see, if I'm a mentor and I'm just imparting these things and maybe the mentee doesn't like them, I might lose them in the process. So that's what I'm saying, to build trust, it has to be mentee-driven.
Yes, okay. And there's something, Steve, you mentioned when you're giving us at least the history of how mentorship came about. You talked about, so the king goes and leaves his children under someone's guidance and leadership, isn't it? What do you think that is possible right now in today's world, in today's society, and what are the impacts of doing that? Because sometimes you find yourself, you're so swamped with work, and especially in the cities, and we find we leave our kids with caregivers, So what is the impact of that? Because the impact you've talked about was quite positive. What is the impact of that right now?
All right, so that we don't confuse the audience.
Yes.
So they live here saying, we should now begin leaving our children with other people. Okay, just to be clear, the concept of mentorship, having explained that, it's just a borrowing from that story. But another angle we could pick is Jesus and his disciples.
Right.
He was actually doing what you can also term as mentorship, which is for us as Christians is discipleship, and spending just very good contact, a lot of contact time with the mentees. And so anyone who spends time, there's an exercise we normally do when we do our parenting program.
Yes.
And we call it time audit.
Okay.
So we get the parents to just list the number of hours that all the stakeholders around the child spends with the child.
Wow.
And so the teacher, maybe in school, the nanny at home, the sports coach, yourself, your spouse if you're married, if probably you're living, maybe you're a single parent, but you live with maybe a sister or, so you list all these people and you look at the time spent, intentional time. And we even put sleep there just to make sure that you're not saying, I've spent a lot of time because I've been with them in the house, but they were asleep.
And quantity aspect.
So we're just looking at the amount of time. So we found that there's a correlation between the person who spends most time with your children will end up having the higher influence in their lives at whatever, the age spectrum. And you can segment the ages as well.
Yes.
And so before you decide to leave somebody, and of course, because you can't do, like you said, you're busy.
Yeah.
One, when you have the time, you should be your very intentional time to mentor your child at whatever the age.
Yes.
But also you have to be very keen on who you entrust your child with. So if it's a school, do you know which teachers spend most of your time, the time with your child? And what is the content? When they interact, what are they saying? Another stakeholder is media. Where your children are actually talking to people you probably have no agreement with, you have no relationship with.
Yes.
In fact, you don't even know them. But then do you know them? And what influence is coming through? The sports coach, the talent coaches, grandma, or all the stakeholders. So the child lives in a community, yes. But the challenge has been that the community is very fragmented and we're not singing the same song. And so as you think of, oh, let me leave to somebody who will mentor my children, the challenge to close the gap is to know what will they impact my child with in terms of their content, what they share. So ultimately, in our modern world, compared to the traditional setting where that statement, it takes a village to raise a child, rang true. I think the responsibility and the onus of mentorship falls more on the parent because you're the one who sort of knows, you have a vision of where this child should end up at in terms of just all the areas of their development. And so then you need to work very, extra diligently in terms of just inputting, but also knowing the stakeholders of the children to almost like try and recreate or reassemble this very broken village. So I would say part of it is just being very intentional as a parent, but also the intentionality goes towards the stakeholders and everybody who has contact with your children to make sure that you're almost like the government, you're the regulator. You should be the regulator of what everybody else is trying to do with your child. And so you're still responsible ultimately, in concert with others.
Because you've mentioned about some of the people who may impact or even mentor our children, and you mentioned the media. Of course, the media has really transitioned. Now we are into, technology, the social media, and most of our children spend their time, or even us ourselves, we spend a lot of time on social media. What is the impact of technology, Maureen, on raising, parenting, and mentoring our children?
Technology really impacts. The impact is so high, and you can't do with technology. So we have to embrace it, and. One way I say you could also, as a parent, regulate what your children are watching, but as you said, sometimes you could be busy, and they might watch things that maybe you do not approve, or they might listen to their friends, because the mentorship also happens within the community with relatives and friends. So I think there has to be clear lines of communication between the parent and the child, that your media might expose you to some things, and so you equip the child on how to handle such kinds of communication. Because you could regulate, but you might not be able to 100% regulate. So it's just to equip the child with skills on how to handle information that might not equip them with the skills that you are trying to mentor.
And all this is happening in the home, right? Most of the time it's in the home. So what kind of environment then can we create, a safe environment for our children to feel like, yes, mom, dad can mentor me, I'm free to speak? What kind of environment should we create at home? And either of you can go.
So for me, I'll say we create, I would create, or I will encourage an environment where everyone is allowed to speak their mind. And as you're allowed to speak your mind, also you listen to the other people's point of view. So it's not like that, I've said, you don't say. No, I've said this is what I think, and you, what do you think? So after hearing one another, then we can talk about what are the consequences. If you did the way you did, what are the consequences? If I did the way I did, what are the consequences? So which way do we follow? So it's not my house, my rules kind of thing. It's very easy to say that, but I think as a parent, sometimes you have to step down your foot and say, there are some things that are not allowed in this house. And as long as I'm still your parent, they might not be allowed. And this is why. I realized maybe the children of today, you know, in our days you used to be told no, and you know it's no, and you don't ask. But nowadays children ask. And I think as a parent, you also have to equip yourself and explain why do you think it is not good. And I think that's one way to win them. Because if you just say no and no,
with no explanation.
I can give an example of one of my children. Right now she's 12, but at the age of 7, she used to ask, "But Mom, why?" I don't see anything wrong with that. And you know, you go yourself questioning yourself, by the way, what is wrong with it? So those having those communication and allowing them to speak is very important, because when they speak, you're able to know also their thought process and maybe where they're going, even where they've acquired that thing that they're trying to tell you.
Okay. So, and also, you know, because you've said about what we tell them, and how about behavior? Because I think kids really ape what we do more than what we say. Is that true? So does it matter how we behave, or you're the boss of the house, Steve, so you can do what you want?
So I'll take it from what Maureen has just shared, that, and maybe I'll segment it a bit in terms of age. Because at younger ages, you want to be very directive in terms of your setting the boundaries very clear. In fact, I like saying from 0 to maybe 1.5, you are almost like 100% control. So I use the word control because, you know, from when they're very young, you're the one who's putting them to sleep, what they will eat, you're determining everything, what they will dress, and you need to be in 100% control. By the time you begin walking around, pulling things on the chairs and everything, you go into this stage of commands. So you're giving commands, bring that, switch that off, do this, take this cup to the... By the time they get to that age of 7, and they begin asking you, why?
Why do I switch?
Like I remember, because we have our oldest is 14. And so I remember when they were around 3, they run quickly, do what you want them to do. By the time they get to this age of 7, 8, 9, preteen, you tell them, take this cup to the kitchen, and they will, you walk, come back, and find the cup is still there. And like, I told you to take this cup. Yeah, Dad, I'm just finishing my book, and then I'll take the cup. So I already had you. Meaning, they're beginning to grow cognitively, and they're beginning to reason. They're beginning to ask why. Your style needs to shift from that of command,
rigidity,
and you know, or you know, and be able to now begin to reason with them. That's part of the mentorship, to begin now to grow their mind, to grow with their mind, and begin challenging them, give them reasons. Not instead of saying, take this cup to the kitchen, you're saying, but they take this cup to the kitchen now, or, okay, so at what time will you want to take the cup to the kitchen? No, but you see, I need to have everything clear because of this, so I need you to run now and then come back and continue.
So you're having a conversation.
So you're having a conversation. So it's both asking questions, listening, they tell you what they tell you, you answer back, and then it continues on from that age, especially into the teens. You really want to be conversational. In fact, talk less and listen more. Then you have fodder of where they're at, what they're doing, and then don't get shocked at some things. I remember at 6, my daughter coming back and say, Dad, I think to ask the mom, if you have sex, will you be taken to juvenile? Those are 2 words we had never taught. We never taught sex, we had never taught juvenile. Where are you picking this vocabulary from? So we did what Maureen said. Oh, where did you hear that from?
In a very calm manner.
The other reaction would have been, I should never hear you say that. Because of all the viruses we have in our minds, the way we've grown up, what we know,
about
our
that
culture,
topic.
Looks at sex as a, yet, you know, God created sex as very beautiful in marriage. So we said, okay, so where did you hear this from? Oh, when I was at camp, we were taking them for church camp. There's an older girl who's around 9 who said, you know, if you have sex and then you'll be taken to juvenile and so she's and so then we got to know, oh, this is where she picked it from. And then now we began addressing it. And you know, the whole area. And so the same thing with media, they'll pick a lot of stuff, but you have to listen more and be wise not to react, so that you build the confidence and the trust you talked about. because of that communication, and you're not looking too, flustered and shocked. Just take it easy.
Yeah.
You go and hyperventilate in your bedroom, and then come back and
relax, chilled out.
If I could just add a little,
Yes.
I think mentorship has to take different phases in the different ages as the children transition. You realize that when they are young, they are the ones doing more of the seeing and the listening and everything.
Yes.
And then now when they grow old, you are the one now actually doing the more of the observation and the listening.
Yeah, and watching them by the way. True that.
Yeah.
Now there's a very quick question here for you, Steve, and they say, "Hi Sally, please ask Steve, what if your child, and mostly the boy child, refuses mentorship? I'm a single mom. How do I go about it?" Anne Nakuru. Very briefly before we go.
I wish I knew the age of Anne's son. There is such a thing as men or boys wanting to triangulate with other men. And so for a single mom,
Yes.
what you want to do is, first of all, if you've built your lines of communication open very quickly, very nicely,
Yes.
then you can also look for a male sort of figure within the family. It could be an uncle, it could be a cousin, somebody you trust,
Yes.
who will actually deliver the same values that you want.
you have,
could be a pastor in church, it could be maybe a teacher that he likes, or and maybe share a few things
Yes.
with that male figure so that they can begin triangulating.
Yes.
So again, it's all about building a village around your child. Don't do it alone.
Yes.
Some boys, though, I've had, single moms say, yeah, we are open with everything we talk. So sometimes it's also maybe the style of how you're doing the conversation, to keep it open so that the boy feels open to share with you. But where you're unable to, then recruit help from just the people around who you trust.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, Anne, I hope that has answered your question. Just, let your child be surrounded by the right people, especially men, depending on his age. Probably that's what he's yearning for, that father figure, that male figure. Parenting Tuesday, and from wherever you're watching us, keep us engaged on SMS 20316. WhatsApp number is 0786316316. Talk to us. Talk to Steve, the expert. Talk to Maureen, the expert of parenting and mentorship. But before we go back to our conversation, which was now on mentorship policies or guidance in our institutions of learning, I would just like to appreciate a certain group of people who have been so impactful in just ensuring that we are on air, that you're getting this clean contact, that you're getting to learn every day, about parenting, about all those tips and navigating this journey of parentship in a very seamless manner. This is about our partners. They are so selfless. May God bless them wherever they are. They just sacrifice a lot for us to be here. So we want to appreciate them this morning and just encourage them to keep on holding our hands as we walk this journey and ensuring that we keep Jesus on the airways every single day. And if you want to be part of this group of people, this community, just send in an SMS, partner, the word partner, on 20316, or WhatsApp us on 0786316316 and send the word partner just to be part of it. And also, if you want to just contribute or send your support to us to keep Jesus on the airwaves, you can also do that through the paybill number 316316, and the account number will be your phone number. So let's get back to the mentorship and the policies probably which could be in place that people are not aware about in our institutions.
So, it would interest us to know that Kenya did a big milestone last year.
Yes.
We got the National Policy on Family Promotion and Protection approved and launched this year in May. This is normally the International Day of Families, May 15th.
Yes.
That's when the CS and just basically the government, in fact, the First Lady graced that event to launch the National Policy on Family Promotion and Protection. One of the thematic areas, there are 10 within that policy. One of them is parenting. And out of that has come positive parenting program that the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, in conjunction with other stakeholders, faith-based and NGOs and others, are actually rolling out throughout the country.
Yes.
And so that's, I mean, a very positive direction as a country.
Yes.
To just begin closing the gap of the parenting skills. And then one of the other thematic areas is family education. So again, there's a whole, at least those two areas provide some form of guidelines to parents, and there's even now tools and guidelines to be able to do your parenting well. And that is already beginning to happen in a small way, but it's growing. The other policy that I have in my mind is parental empowerment and engagement by KICD. So because I think CBC envisaged that the parents should be very engaged. Of course, there's been a lot of pushback and pull of parents feeling like, oh no, you teachers should do the work, and then the parents. But I think the thinking, much as you could say a lot about our curriculum, but I think it was right. To say, you know what, as a parent, you are a key stakeholder. In fact, they say you're the primary educator of your child. And then the teachers are just coming to supplement what you're already doing at home in terms of character building. Then they fill in with the competencies. So the parental empowerment and engagement also provides some guidelines for the parent to mentor. Now, I haven't looked at the Ministry of Education, but I imagine even the teachers must have some guidelines of what to do in class. Because just like the story we had shared of Mentor earlier, it is about the contact time you have with the child. Then understanding we live in a very fragmented society.
We do.
Where we're not singing the same song.
Yes.
But I think all of us to take responsibility as a parent, do your best. Then when they go to school as a teacher, you're a mentor for that period of time. And it's not just teaching math and English.
No.
That's good. But also just think of beyond and say, what other life skills and character building can I do to the child? When they land with a sports coach, and maybe you're teaching them football, or you're coaching them on playing chess, or whatever the activity the child is interested, swimming, whatever. Then you also have some contact time with that child. When they're at home, maybe with the grandparents, the grandparents should take responsibility to have that little bit of time to mentor. So you find that if all of us could take a little bit of a share of the mentorship load, then I think we'll end up with a much better society, more well-behaved children, and solid in character with what we desire. But like I keep saying, the regulator in this whole village we're trying to recreate is the parent, who has to really be intentional in setting the tone of that mentorship song.
Now, we have children here, both genders, male and female, Maureen. Which one, you know, from your experience, which one of them, boy or girl, is it easier to mentor or difficult, or is it, you know, what are the differences in mentoring these two?
I will say it depends. It depends with the child. It depends. Sorry, depending also on the age at which mentorship is being introduced. So there are other things. I wouldn't say it's a boy who is easy or it's a girl who is easy. It really depends on how mentorship has been exposed to them, and especially the earlier socialization. You might find sorry. You might find a boy who has grown well with the mother, listening to the mother, and then when they reach teenage, they want to identify with a male figure, and then they'll start rebelling against the mother because they want her.
Just like Anne's question, what it was about.
And you find a girl who has been okay with the mom, or even with the dad. When she's in teenage, she even doesn't want to listen to the mom. So it really depends with the particular child, and especially with the early orientation they had when they were young.
So because our kids go to school, I think because it's parenting, so we're going to talk about children more than the adults. So they spend a lot of time with their teachers. And you say mentorship should start when they're much younger. What impact do you think teachers, or, you know, what impact do teachers have on our children at that very tender age?
Teachers have a very big impact, and I think we cannot just assume mentors are only parents only. So even teachers are mentors. They are mentoring this child. Even the friends, the community, the relatives are mentors, as we said. But teachers have a very big role, because when you send a child to school, they spend most of the time with the teacher than even the parent. So teachers have a a very big impact on the child. And I think as we were talking about policy, I think maybe people in the field, we need to advocate for having mentorship programs, a lot of mentorship programs included in the curriculum, so that by the time the child is finishing school, you do not just have a child who has scored well academically, but you have a well-adjusted citizen who can really fit in society.
An all-rounded kind of child. Okay. All right. Now, as you know, we have different networks as grown-ups, as adults. You're meeting this person today, another one tomorrow, and we create networks. That's how we form our networks. How can you now, as a parent or a mentor, also transfer or introduce your child to other mentors, just to, like you're saying, to be an all-round, because you cannot know everything. So how do you introduce them, or how do we introduce them as parents to our mentors now, you know?
I think you bring a critical point, because what we are suffering currently is the loss of apprenticeship. So a generation or two ago, maybe 100+ years, and in some cases, some societies not so long ago, when your father was a carpenter, you naturally became a carpenter. You knew these are the families of the blacksmiths, or the carpenters, or the cattle herders, or cattle rustlers, whatever the case. Or fishermen and all that. So apprenticeship happened and mentorship happened naturally in that setting, where as I'm fishing, we're talking about life. The child is looking at how you're behaving, how you're making decisions, how you're selling, how you negotiate. So they're actually learning the entirety of life from that apprenticeship understanding. Now, in a fragmented society that we live in, where a child goes to school, I go this direction, over Saturday we go cut deals, I look at that piece of land I need to buy, whatever. And also, like you said, we have networks. I think it's for us to just know now, how do we redeem a bit of this apprenticeship to form a mentorship, so that if you now look at the child's talent, and maybe they're very interested in cars, assuming, and you have a friend maybe who has a garage, or who is a mechanic, then you can use that network for them to be exposed more. Maybe you have a friend who is into coding, but you are not very tech savvy, or that's not your area of interest. Then you can use your network, leverage on them, for them to be exposed in coding, for them to be exposed in maybe that sport or that talent. Or maybe they do even some form of apprenticeship during holidays. That will also grow them in terms of, you know, maybe they'll sell at a shop. And you can actually create all these opportunities for your child, leveraging on your networks. But you have again to be very clear that the person who you are involving your child with will actually transfer not just the skill, but also the behavior or the character that you want. So again, it goes back to your networks and making sure that all of you hopefully are seeing the same tune, you have the same values, and if you place your child in any of your friends, they will be mentored right in the way you desire. So I think it's a great opportunity we have as parents to leverage on our networks.
The apprenticeship bit of it is amazing. But are those opportunities there sometimes? Because I remember there's so many restrictions. I remember the time my child wanted to, you know, go into a certain hospital for, at that time she wanted to be a doctor. You know, kids sometimes can keep changing their career paths or whatever, dreams. And so they were like, okay, it's possible. However, you know, there were so many, what do you call them? There were so many rules, or for you to, you have to do this, you have to do that. And at the end of the day, the child is just like, you know what? So I think those things need to be, they just give up and they're like, no,
I know what you're saying, but you know, sometimes it's maybe, as opposed to maybe a very busy, big hospital, maybe a smaller clinic that is easy. Because the bigger the institution, the more bureaucracy. But if you look for smaller institutions, and maybe it doesn't have to be a long period, because also you don't want to overburden your colleague or your friend. Just say probably they'll come for a day during holiday, maybe once a week or twice a week. So they come and get a bit of experience, because your interest is not so much in them learning just about that, but it's just learning here's how people live, this is what people do. They come back with questions, you're debriefing them in the evening. How was it?
Yes.
How was it, say, you know, taking a matatu, going to that place?
Yeah.
How was it?
Social
you know,
skills, communication skills, and all that.
And all that. So yeah, I mean, it's not a straight line, but we're just saying, think and expand your horizon in terms of there are some friends you can connect them with and leverage on your
so it's not linear.
Yeah,
okay.
it's not linear.
Let's come into the role. We live in a community, you know, and you had spoken about the village and raising of a child. What roles does the community play in also mentoring? And we had also spoken about it's not just about me as a parent and you as a mentor. What role does the community play?
I'll say maybe the first thing the community plays is I don't know that to call it whistleblowing or I think to inform you as a mentor that your mentee might be going well or not going well. I think that's just feedback. You can get feedback from the community that when something has happened, let's say in school, the teacher will call you in school and tell you this has happened and this and this and this to your child. So that's one role of the community to give feedback even to the mentor. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I would add to say that you know, we have become a very selfish society, or
It's about you.
Yeah.
It's about me. Yeah.
Yeah, very self-centered.
Yeah.
You really rarely see a child who is misbehaving and think, I think I need to know who the parent is so that I report them. We are very individualistic now.
Yeah.
Everybody, kila mtu akona mambo yake, which is a sad state of where we are.
But before?
That's where we are. Before, you know, you would be nyoroshwad by the mom over there, and then
Taken
you
home.
would be so scared that she's going to tell your mom that, you know, this is what you did.
Yeah.
And so, and there's a whole research, by the way, that says when a child is checked by many stakeholders who expect the same thing from them, they actually align. Yeah. Basically, they're saying the village. But now, as I said, we live in very fragmented, you know, in our
fact, Steve, if your child is touched like this by someone, you're like,
even
what?
the teacher, you show up and say, and so, again, we are communicating to these children, you know, I can go misbehave.
Yes. And my dad has my mom has my back.
And so I can do anything.
You know?
But when you allow consequences to settle on the other side, so what that means is you have to create the song again. Yes. You have to go talk to the stakeholders, the teacher, and tell them. And by the way, teachers love it. When they see that as a parent, you have come and said, I'm very concerned about their behavior. Please, if they do anything that is contrary to what, tell me. We are on the same side. Yeah. So you become cahoots with the teachers. Yes. But what we do is we've created an us versus them thing. So and the teachers do your thing. I've gone to schools and you see the teachers have no authority at all, some private schools, to discipline the children. In fact, you go in as a mentor or as a facilitator and they tell you just, ngangana tu. These ones, you know, ndo wanatulipa mshahara, you know. And so the parents come and they pick the children, are you okay today, you know. But what you have done is you've just cut off an asset, just a really great help from the teacher. So just go talk to the teacher, even a Sunday school teacher, tell them this is what I'm trying to do with my child. If something happens, tell me. Now you build your village intentionally.
Now I'm seeing a message from Mercy from Kitengela, and she says, hi Sally, I'm Mercy from Kitengela and I have a few questions. One, how should I balance discipline and freedom in my parenting style? Two, she has 3 questions. How should I handle conflict or disagreement with my kids, and how can I encourage independence while still providing guidance? And I like the 3rd question because it was part of our discussion. It was going to come. 3 very pertinent questions from Mercy in Kitengela. And the first question is, how should I balance discipline and freedom in my parenting style, Maureen?
Balancing discipline and freedom. It's a catch-22. Yes. It has just to be a balance, as in the child has to know there's a place for discipline and there's a place for also allowing you freedom to do some things. And I'll still go back to it takes to communication that if we have rules in this home and you've gone against it, then you have to be disciplined. Discipline can take so many forms. Can be a cane for some, can be withdrawing some things like screen time for some, can be for naughty corner for some. Naughty corner might not work, so discipline can take different shapes. So it's those one of you also try, and they just know when they have done wrong, there's a place for discipline. So there's like, so what is my punishment? Am I washing utensils or you know
something? Yeah, there has to be a punishment somewhere.
So they have to know, and then they have to know that there's freedom in doing what is expected of me.
And when you talk about freedom of what is expected of them, you give an example of even like with your kids, and they're there and they're fighting, and you decide, you know what, you guys are free to sort your issues.
And that actually answers the second question that she's asking about handling conflict and disagreement. And my example is initially when my kids used to quarrel, I used to nilikuwa naingilia. Then I realized huwa nabaki ndani because after some time they will go back to being friends. So, and then they'll start saying, you are favoring so and so, you are favoring so and so. So I was saying earlier that I have learned to watch from a distance, but I'm still watching. So one of them will start asking, "Mama, mbona uingili?" Then I'm like, you know, you guys are gonna grow, and I will not be there. So you need to learn to also be able to fight your own battles, and there has to be an agreement after. But then now I will not leave it there. So after they are done, I'll go back and ask, so how did it go? What was it that was wrong? What was it that was wrong? Then I will try and now give my comment.
Now, because of time, then we're going to get into, we can't just talk about, we've mentored these children. Here they are, they've achieved something. Steve, how do we celebrate them just to keep on encouraging them to grow? What are some of the ways you can celebrate these children?
I think celebration, affirming, encouraging should be continuous.
Correct.
Think of yourself as an adult. We work with marriages, and a lot of times the adults are saying, you know, you don't affirm me. You don't, you know, as adults, we actually thrive in being affirmed, even at work. You know, when you're told you did a good job, you know, you feel very good. It's actually an emotional need that all human beings have. And so you shouldn't wait for them to do like a really, really stellar thing for you to give them an affirmation.
Those small
it should be just those small things.
Steps,
you washed the dishes really well today. Or you cleaned the room really well. Good job. You did this. So it's a continuous encouragement, and that actually is what strengthens the heart of a child.
Fantastic.
In terms of feeling like, oh, I'm actually valued. Even as human beings, or rather as adults, we feel valued when somebody tells you, oh, this is you're really good at this. And so just think of yourself, then transfer that into your child as a continuous encouragement. For them to sort of stay along the path of discipline or the path of whatever you've set with a goal that you have in mind.
Very quickly, Maureen, in the next decade, do you think parenting and mentorship would have evolved to something different, or do you think it's going to be the same thing that you're experiencing right now?
It will have evolved to totally something different. Given the whatever we have right now, even like the gadgets and all that. Kitambo will not say media is part of mentor, but now with the way media is evolving, mentorship has also to take a different place. If at all we still want to have a good relationship between the mentee and the mentor. And probably last but not least, what are the challenges very quickly and the solutions to parenting and mentorship, especially with the Gen Zs and the millennials? I will. Okay, sorry. Maybe I'll go. I'll say one of the challenges that I've seen is, we are expecting just the mentor to be the parent, and you find sometimes the parent does not even have capacity to mentor, and yet this is still their child. So I've seen that as a very big challenge. It's expected as a parent you should have capacity to mentor, and it is really a problem. So that's a challenge. And maybe I will say now, even as a parent, while you feel you don't have the capacity,
Yes.
maybe it is good to utilize different channels that
Yeah.
might be around. If there are some, for example, if you fail in communication with your child,
Yes.
you could look for your like an auntie or someone who you will tell, this is how I want to communicate to my
Yes.
child, and they can use that channel to pass the same information. And you'll realize some children could even hear now the other person
Yes.
than you, but since you trust the other person, they have still communicated what you want to communicate.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. And because of time, we have to come to the end of this amazing show. Quite interactive it has been, with amazing and, as always, knowledgeable panelists. Guys, thank you so, so much for the knowledge you've shared and impacted on us. I'm sure parents at home watching and listening are very knowledgeable right now about mentorship, you know, and how to go about parenting and guiding these young people who we are bringing together. And it's very clear that mentorship and parenting are intertwined. The two go hand in hand. And also, it is important to remember that we should lead, as you know, by example as parents. And we've seen how, you know, some of those things that we've talked about today, apprenticeship, just be there and guide your child through your friends, through your networks, and help them grow in various and different ways, all rounded, like Steve had said, and also ways of just solving conflicts or disagreement. Maureen says, you know, listen to them. Sometimes just let them be and let them learn to sort themselves out. And that's also part of mentorship. So until next week on Parenting Tuesday, where we shall be discussing another very interesting topic that will touches a lot of us, or almost everybody, every one of us, coping with grief. That will be next week on Tuesday. And I hope I'll see you then, and keep on talking to us. And also tomorrow, on Financial Clinic, we shall be discussing financial literacy. From now, these children we've mentored and parented up to this level, Gen Z and millennials. Tomorrow we'll be discussing financial literacy with the Gen Zs and millennials. God bless you and have an amazing Tuesday.